Hi all, it's finally time for another one of my favorite Final Fantasy characters to shine. After getting his EX Plus 3 months early, it is time for Dark Knight Cecil to get yet another much needed upgrade. With the release of the Boss Rush, he gets his LD weapon alongside slight adjustments for both of his base abilities. Dark Knight Cecil is still being used even nowadays on JP, despite the fact that he got these updates 8 months ago. Please bear in mind, however, that he only sees use within one team archetype that gets shut down by certain stages. We will talk about this in more detail later in the video. For the rest of the guide, I will refer to Dark Knight Cecil as Desil. I will also assume the player has all of Desil's gear maxed out, except for perhaps the mannequin weapon. We're all set now, so let's jump straight to the unit review. Desil is a rather odd character. You want him to stay at low health for as long as possible. What this means is that pairing him up with any character who heals is therefore heavily disrecommended. To help him achieve this, all of his abilities drain his health. You can view him as the incorporation of a high-risk, high-reward archetype character, and you would not be wrong. He works well in launch-oriented teams and actually pairs up well with characters such as Cloud, Post-Rio Karamza, and Kais in particular, as they all provide additional launches and minimal heals, if any at all. There are two ways of playing Desil, though for Lufenia level content, you'll more than likely resort to a more aggressive playstyle, as you rarely, if ever, want the bosses to act even once throughout the fight. Both of his regular abilities have a plus variant that is available only if Desil's health is under 50% or for one use after using the X ability. As they are quite a lot more powerful than the regular variant, you want them to be active at all times. Desil's first skill, Darkness, deals 6 Dark Elemental Bravery hits upon all enemies, and follows up with a single target HP attack. It consumes 15% of Desil's current HP and gives him 2 buffs, 50% max bravery up for 6 turns, and Power of Darkness, which raises the bearer's max bravery by 10% and attack by 30%, on top of reducing incoming HP damage by 10% for 4 turns. The Plus variant has the same amount of hits, but more overflow and damage. The latter also gives Desil his second frame buff, Light Within Darkness, which gives him a 60% bravery regen effect based on his initial bravery. Darkness has 8 uses. His second skill is Valiant Blow. After consuming 40% of Desil's current health, he deals 4 Dark-type bravery hits to the targeted enemy, then launches them whilst battering the party. On top of that, it grants him a 40% attack buff for 8 turns. The Plus variant deals 2 more bravery hits, has higher potency, party battery and overflow, and also deals 50% splash damage, which enables all other targets to be launched more easily. Akin to Darkness, Desil will get Power of Darkness from both variants and Light Within Darkness from Valiant Blow Plus. It has got 5 uses. Onto the X ability. Dark Cannon deals 2 sets of Dark Elemental Bravery plus HP damage and deals 20% splash damage on both dumps. It inflicts Dark Imperil on all enemies hit. Much like Vayne's or Yuri's EX, it also refreshes one use of each of Desil's base abilities after being used. Like I mentioned before, it turns Darkness and Valiant Blow into their plus variant for one use, regardless of Desil's health. Dark Cannon has got a slow plus recast speed, which means you need to use 3 skills to replenish the gauge. Lastly, his LD weapon grants him access to Soul Eater, which deals 6 Dark Bravery hits and an HP attack delivered twice. It delays all targets by 1 turn, has instant turn rate, and inflicts his frame debuff Lunar Mystique to all enemies for 8 turns. Whilst the debuff is active, the afflicted enemy takes 20% more HP damage from friendly attacks and has a sap effect equal to 10% of their max bravery. It also inflicts Dark Resistance down for 6 turns, which is perfect for dishing out more damage. Of course, it gives Desil both of his frame buffs. His Bravery plus and HP plus are slightly more complex than those of most other characters in the game. Each of them has a variant that will differ depending on Desil's health at the time of the attack. Bravery attack plus power and HP attack plus power both consume Desil's health but deal a rather high amount of damage for non-skills. The HP attack from HP attack plus power also deals splash damage to all enemies. This variant is active when Desil's health bar is over 50% full. As for the other variant, Heal is active when Desil's health is under 50%. It deals less damage overall and lacks the HP splash from the power counterpart, but it restores Desil's health by a small amount depending on the damage dealt. It can be a nice way to get the character back above the last stand threshold, which is 20% max HP, if there is an imminent threat. Cecil's biggest change lies in his brand new LD ability, which allows not only him but the entire party to dish out more HP damage per turn. 20% damage up may not seem like much, but it makes a huge difference in the long run. Despite the seemingly low skill count, it is important to make use of Valiant Blow Plus often, as it can be replenished thanks to Cecil's still useful Dark Cannon. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, he sees much play in launch-oriented comps, most often accompanied by Kais and Cloud, although there exist variations including Ramza and Our Lady. Cecil is generally equipped with a call ability that helps to keep the orb at bay, as the launch archetype is notorious for not caring about the orb and treating the fight as if it were a DPT race. Thus, it gives you a way to increase the orb count in extremis if needed. Cecil himself often gets swapped out after using the LD for Ramza or Cloud support, as his longevity is rather short and the support character can still take advantage of Cecil's debuff, despite the latter not being on the field. Realistically, you will rarely if ever use his first skill, except if you bring Cecil to a Dimensions End stage or anything where the fight drains your character out of their skills. Overall, the single dump with no splash or split is not bad per se, but does not make much sense in his kit. About skill 2, it is not entirely dissimilar to Kane's ZX skill. Although it lacks the delay his Dragon Pal has, the battery is more powerful, it has got fast turn rate, and perhaps most importantly, is not locked behind a recast gauge. This is the base skill you want to use as much as possible when Cecil is on the field, as it allows the entire party to deal damage thanks to this chase sequence. The aforementioned fast turn rate also helps you to manipulate the turn order in your favor, and allows multiple successive launches to happen. I'd advise the player to thus be very wary of the turn order, even more than usual, as harnessing it results in better performance. Due to the fact that you will often disallow the bosses from moving entirely through the entire fight, you can use the LD on the first turn and save up the 2 remaining uses to manipulate the turn order in your favor later. Unless the bosses have the ability to cleanse, Cecil's LD debuff will realistically never go off, so you should not worry about reapplying it. If you also use Valiant Blow Plus regularly, you should not have trouble maintaining his buff ups either. Cecil still has got some nasty flaws. Being of the Dark Element, he is naturally mostly locked out of stages that absorb said element. If you do end up bringing Cecil there, he can still manipulate the turns in your favor while applying his LD debuff. However, there generally are more effective ways to deal with the stages. Outside of a launch team, he's a very fragile fighter, and building a team around him can be tedious. Too many heals result in his usefulness dropping considerably. Not enough heals lead to potential death. He's also hardly usable in stages that are immune to delay and or launch. Lastly, Dark Knight Cecil is a fairly complex character to use and master, but his lasting impact on the JP side of the game has proven he's worth at least your consideration. I really don't like to dictate whether or not to pull for a unit. You may consider spending some resources on Cecil if you seek a launcher for your team. If you have or will have Cloud built up and you plan on getting Kai's kit during his last chapter, Cecil becomes an even more desirable unit to have. On the other hand, if you'd rather play the game with more traditional team compositions, you don't really miss on much by skipping the Dark Knight. Although he sees occasional play in non-launch comps, you will probably find other characters capable of fulfilling the same niche. Thank you immensely for sticking around until the end. Let me know if you'd like to see more of this type of content in the future. It took quite a bit of time to do everything from start to finish. Here's the list of people within the community I'd like to give my thanks to. Links are in the description. I'll definitely give my thoughts on Cecil after the banner goes live on GL, so stay tuned.